So now we are on session 4. This is going to be learning elements, names, and terms to speak with the AI so the AI knows exactly what we're trying to do. Okay, so let me close this for now and then we can minimize this. The two main components that you need to understand is what each item is, because you're gonna have a collection with field IDs and you're also gonna have elements with their IDs. Okay, so we're gonna start with the elements. So we're gonna go here and under input you're gonna have this element right here, so we're gonna add it. We're also gonna add this box. We're gonna add another one. Let me move them here. And we're gonna just add a bunch of them just so that way we can talk about what they are and how you identify them. So whenever you're requesting to create code, the AI knows exactly how to give you the best results, so that way you don't have too much struggle. Date picker, and then we're also gonna do let's say address, and let's go to age range here. Then we're also gonna go to tags, and let me see if I'm missing anything here. Let's do ratings as well. And then we're also just gonna do a few basic elements like text. We're gonna add a text. And I know it looks all messy right now, but you'll see it makes sense in a second. Also, thank you for being patient. I know many people like to learn too fast, and I'm trying to go slower just because I want to make sure you don't miss anything. So you can also make sure under your screen you can speed up so I go a little faster if that's what you want. But perfect. Okay, so the first thing is understanding the type of element that you're using. In this example right here, we have a heading, and you see at the top on the Wix Studio and also on Classic Editor, you're gonna have this little button at the top of your element that tells you exactly what type of element it is. So in this example, we have, this is a text type of element. If we go to the next one, which is this button, you're gonna see this is a button type of element. This one is a text box, okay? Because if there's a big differences on what you're gonna need, right? And then this one is a text input, right here you see it. This is an address input. This one right here is a ratings input, and this is a date picker. This one is a radio buttons, and this one is a selection tags. Now, why this is important, because an example it's gonna be once you're creating or requesting a code is gonna be, I have a text input ID, and you're gonna find the ID at the bottom, ID input 1, or let's say you change it to email input, okay? So let's say you're telling the AI, I have an email input, a text input, sorry, ID email input that I wanna have as a search bar for the collection, and we're gonna go through the next part, okay? So now that you know what these type of elements are and their IDs, now you're collecting this data when you're gonna start requesting for specific functionalities or codes. Then we're gonna go to the next part, which is a collection. When you create a collection, if you don't know how to do it, I will suggest you go watch video on dynamic pages I have. That way I'll go in more detail, but right now we're just gonna assume that you already know how to create a collection. So we're gonna create one right here. There's two ways on doing it. You can just go here, or we can also go directly into pages, add a new page, and then see where it says dynamic page. I can click here and I can just use a data that already exists in the Wix websites. So that way I can just speed up the process. So we're gonna do this one. It's gonna create a collection for projects, and we're gonna go into that specific database or CMS, okay? So once we go here under collections, you see this one is named projects, right? So if we go here on the three little dots, you have a few options. You have permissions, and this is important to know where they are, because once you're creating certain functionality, you might need to know about where the permissions are, where the settings are to adjust certain things. But the most important part right now is we want to know about the terms and names, right? So we're going to go under settings. This collection has a name, right? But the most important part here is going to be the ID. So because you change the name, the ID won't change on a collection. So this is what you will need once we're creating specific code. And right now we're going to do an example after we learn all these concepts, but I just want to show you where they are. Okay. Now, once we do that, we're going to go now inside the collection. And as you can see here, you have at the top the type of field that you have, right? So you have a text, that's why it's a T. This icon means it's an image, and then this one just means a data set. So let's understand each of the elements. So also you know how you're gonna request specific things for the AI. So once we click add field, you're gonna see the different types of fields that you have. So this one is a text type. This type of element can be connected with the following. So let's go back here. A field type can be connected to text box. It can be connected to a text input, and it can also be connected with a date picker, age range. So you can use any of these elements for a text input. So it can support numbers and it can support also text. So those are very valuable whenever you're creating anything. Let's go back here. Rich text. Rich text will be more for supporting hyperlinks, images, and you can also do different type of text. So if we go to input and we do rich text, it's right here. So we're gonna drag it. As you can see here, it's a rich text box. So you have different types of text. You can also embed links, and let's go here. As you can see, you can embed links. So it's important to know this, because if you're trying to use this element to code or to submit some kind of data to your collection, you're gonna know what kind of field type will work for that, because you can force it, but it might give you an error. It might still work, but you might get an error. So that's the rich text. Rich content, it's almost like its own page. It's very independent. I would say with this one, most of the times, if you want to do any coding, it's going to be a lot of work. It is possible, but just know that whenever you're using rich content, it gives you the ability to add tables, to add images, do a bunch of stuff. So it's very good for creating complex dynamic pages where you have a different type of content. So you don't need a specific structure. So that's where I will use rich content. URLs, this is a type of field that whenever you're using it, you can embed links for websites, or you can also use it for social media URLs. So that's what it's going to be very useful for. Then you have number. This is going to be also good for using it to create, let's say, a website where you can rate things, You can also use it for phone numbers. I sometimes don't like to use it as much for phone numbers just because you cannot do the parentheses or the dashes. But again, it's up to you. Just know that it has to only work with numbers. And then we have tags. This type of element is only gonna work with this type of element. So this selection tags only works with field tags. Sorry for being so repetitive, but that's what it needs to be. Then we have Boolean. This is more for like if you want to have a selection of yes, no, or true or false to approve, things like that. So that's where you will use a Boolean field type. And then you have a reference collection. The reference collection is if you want to work with multiple CMS or multiple collections. So if you would add this element, then you can pretty much display the data from two different collections in one place. And again, we're gonna do a few samples of those. That way you can see how they work. And reference is having like 4 or 5 different collections that you want to display. So an example would be, let's say you have a hospital that has doctors, that has patients, maybe they have like specific rooms, and you want to have all these different things being displayed in one page, either to search it or to show something to the public. Right, so that's just an example. Image, of course, is a single image. So this can be for like thumbnails, logos, or just to display any single image. Media gallery. With the media gallery, you're gonna be able to show multiple images, whatever the amount you want. There's no actual limit. It's just gonna slow down your site if you have a little bit over 100 pictures, because I've seen it. I have websites that have over 100 images and it kind of slows them down. Video, this is a field where people can upload their own video. And again, this is something that you can use. Audio, pretty much for music, recordings, things like that. Documents, to be very specific when they're uploading, if you have a specific form where you need them to upload a file. And also if they have multiple documents, then they'll use this one right here. Date, this is for selection for bookings, to find specific submissions. So you can use it for different types, but it has to be all about the date. Time as well, so you can do a combination of those. Address, if you want to have like a way of how your users can add their own address. Search for locations. And if you want to be more specific and have something like geolocation or something that goes around a specific area based on zip code, then you will use something more like an API for Google. Like Google Maps has an API, so that will be more advanced. So you wouldn't necessarily need this. And if that's the case, once you start asking the AI to create specific things, it will tell you this is what you need. Object is if you want to incorporate too many things in once from one single user. An example would be you create your own chat where multiple communications from one user get stored on one place. So an example would be like this. Rather than having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 items, they can all be on a single box as an object. And that way it can be displayed for hundreds or even thousands of items at the same time, because I have tested. And then array, we're not going to use it in this training because I don't have a good example, but once you start creating specific functionality, you might have to use this field. So now that we know a bit about what are the different type of fields, now we're gonna open a specific field. So anytime you're gonna need to code anything, you're gonna have to go under the specific item that you're trying to do, and you're gonna try to get the field ID. Okay, because remember the field name is not always the same as the field ID. So we're gonna add an example here. So I can do text, right? Choose, and let's say I want to do rating, but I can, let's say, add ratings, save it, and then let's say later I want to edit and I just want to do rating, and I save it. You're gonna notice it didn't change on the ID. So that's why it's important that anytime you're gonna be creating a specific thing, to for sure or verify twice that you do have the right field ID. So that's on the collections. Now we're gonna open this part right here. As you can see here, each of these elements can also help you whenever you're creating a specific code or functionality, because for example, the text box only supports these event handlers. Even though we no longer have them here, if I add them, they won't stay because now they're dynamic through this part. But you understand whenever you tell the chat GPT, for example, hey, create this code and it's not working, you tell it like it only supports on change, on click, or you can just literally, I'm gonna show you some tricks. You can literally use your tool in your computer called snipping tool, and then you can just copy this, okay? And once you do this, you're gonna just save it and submit it to the AI and tell it this is the only ones that support. So you don't have to copy and paste each of them, but this is gonna speed up the way you're doing things. So again, that's a quick tool. So rather than you copying something, or another example would be you go online because you try to do specific thing for your website and you find a blog where they're talking about, hey, use this code. You can just literally copy that screen and then paste it into the AI and tell it, hey, they're saying that I could use this code. This is what I'm trying to do. So we're gonna go into the next example on creating our own functionalities and codes. That's where we're gonna go through each of those.